Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call the village board in order on Tuesday, February 11th at 6 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Eno.
Here.
Abshire. Here. Scattergood.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Clove.
Here.
Duffy is excused. And Solomon.
Here. Approval of minutes as published.
So moved.
Second.
Changes, additions, deletions, other comments?
Oh, there was a Shirley sent a Rigi, not Shirley.
What page?
Page 1, line 35.
Oh, yeah, Scalish is
I don't think
finance director for the county.
Okay.
See, I read.
Good job.
Pam.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments and correspondence?
I have several items on here, and you'll notice that 2222 Scandia Road is on here. That would be my address. That would be from when I learned that Wisconsin ditches will jump up and bite you. Just I thought I'd point that out in case somebody had a question about that. So that's in your sheriff's report on what's taking place. Most of it's pretty benign stuff. 911 follow-ups. Also, you'll notice my address on there a second time, where my daughter decided to figure out how to work a telephone. So.
Can learn somehow.
Again, none of these are really alarming in terms. I mean, you've got one dog bite on there, one disorderly. The ones that are more concerning, or you had 2 thefts reported on there, and that's something for us to keep an eye on. I don't know the nature of those or what was reported stolen. That's just what I look at from the police reports. Another item of correspondence. This was addressed to Mr. Christy Sully.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Personally.
Essentially, the governor's office thanking us for our resolution and giving them a chance to hear our thoughts and opinions.
What was the resolution?
This was on the
fracking.
non
the mining.
Mining.
Our opportunity to tell him we thought he was wrong. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so there you are. Did get one more letter from the Humane Society. We typically have budgeted $1,000 a year, and it is included in this year's budget as well.
So it's $750, did we raise it?
1,000.
I think we raised it last year.
Okay.
We also pay, who's the gentleman we pay to pick up strays and other animals?
Mark Richards.
Mark Richards serves as our animal control officer, and he is on call as needed, which doesn't happen often.
Right. But, so we pay him though in addition to anything we give the Humane Society?
Oh, yes.
Okay, but
Yes.
if he picks up strays or whatever, he takes them to the Humane
He
Society?
takes them there.
Yeah.
And he bills us, and then if there's a collar on the animal so that we know whose it was, we will bill them to get reimbursed. We don't always succeed, but we try.
The money for dog licensing, what was the amount we charge per license? Do you know right off the top of your head?
$3.
$3 for a neutered.
$3 for a neutered animal?
That's, the county sets that.
Okay, and that goes to the county?
Yeah.
And then there's no additional local charge for that?
Nope.
No, but after April 1st, there's a $5 late fee as well.
Who receives the late fee? The county?
We do.
We do? Okay. I don't know if it's not an action item, I'll let it go. Another one, we included a copy from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities in your budget. It's an item of correspondence. The governor's In this case, we're talking about the surplus could help fund municipalities, $100 million shortfall. There are a number of these, the biggest one being restoring $30 million cut made back in 2012 in transportation aids. Juliana and I had a very brief conversation about this. We anticipated it would be very minimal impact to the village of Sister Bay. Juliana, do you have any comments on?
The amounts that we get from state aid
Yeah.
have decreased, but it's not a huge amount of money, the difference. So if we get more, that'll be nice.
Okay. One more item of correspondence. We received a letter from Mr. Paul Supper, and he is resigning from the Zoning Board of Appeals. He has had some health issues to come up as of late, and so we will need to replace a member just as we have added one on.
I have one question about how he states it. He said I must temporarily resign.
He indicated, Janelle, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. He had come in, and right now he has a health issue that's going to prevent him from sitting. If he's doing better, and if he's feeling better, he'd like to come back.
Okay. Thank you. That it for correspondence?
That is it for correspondence, sir.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to make a comment on a non-agenda item?
Yes, ma'am?
One question, we can table it for later if we need to, but it occurred to me with this really cold weather, are we aware of any citizens in the village who are having trouble that might need
Assistance?
assistance of some sort?
Could we handle that under items to be referred to as staff? Or do you want to do it now?
She's welcome to make a public comment and question that, that's fine.
Okay.
That's all.
We don't have a response, but
Yeah. I will tell you that there are public service announcements going out right now for heat. It's something that the county is administering. I don't recall the details on the program, but it's income-based.
And there's no homeless issues that we're aware of?
Nothing.
I
that's
know that
been
sounds
signed.
insane, but, no. I
Well,
just
we
thought I'd ask.
did go to some lengths to make sure that we,
Yes.
with difficulty, got propane for the fire station and the library, because
So there's
those are
Janelle,
Warming
places for
centers.
people to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Janelle pulled a number of strings to get those locations filled, and it was with some difficulty that was done. So we're very appreciative of her efforts in that, because if we were to have someone whose home were to fail and run out of propane, at least they'd have those locations to go to. And of course, the fire station's open 24 hours
Okay.
for people, and we paid a pretty penny for it. Okay.
okay. Item number 1, new business. Consider a motion to approve ordinance 221-021114, amending the portion of the official map for the village of Sister Bay which relates to the area east of Orchard Drive and north of Flint Ridge Road.
Okay, what staff is asking for is you all accept the recommendation of the Plan Commission to delete a section of the officially mapped streets. If you look inside your packets, it is the section on the officially mapped streets. Of course, there is no street there that is located right here. That little piece came out. You don't see it indicated on that map. And that's why it's indicated as a draft map. Thank you.
It's all top secret.
Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry.
My apologies. Does that have any impact on water or sewer lines or anything that were planned for utilities?
No. When the Plan Commission took a look at it, they looked at the
We'll
Kupak
look at
study,
Kupak.
The core study, the
No
planning.
impact.
There's no impact. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2, consider a motion to approve a transfer in the amount of $761 from the CIP for the purchase of a new tanker truck for the Sister Bay Liberty Grove Fire Department.
So, when we began the budgeting process, the initial thought was that this purchase would take place sometime in FY15, not 14. Since that time, the it's my understanding the town of Liberty Grove has allocated funds so that the purchase can move forward. I have had some conversation with Fire Chief about their capital improvement plan, what their schedule is. Their next purchase is intended to be a brush truck. I asked if they would consider delaying purchases thereof, should this board want to entertain moving monies around in our CIP to handle some of the projects that we have ongoing, and he indicated that would not be a problem to delay future purchases that this one truck would do. And I wish Pat were here to speak to it. Scott, you may have been at one of the meetings to know. I think this replaces
Before my time.
3 of the trucks that they have. So they're going to surplus those off, and that'll also give them some money to work with for future acquisitions as well.
I would like to add, I also spoke to the fire chief, Chris Heck, and I know he provided myself, I don't know if he emailed to everybody, a document showing
Yes.
their 20-year plan for capital improvements or capital requests. The next truck isn't for, I believe, 9 years, 8 or 9 years?
Big truck.
Big truck.
Yeah.
Is 8 or 9 years down the road. They don't show any other trucks prior to that.
So brush truck on
The
there.
brush truck, that's $27,000.
Yeah, it's a little truck.
Right, which
Yeah.
is, as fire trucks goes, insignificant.
Yeah.
Right.
The $127,000 is 1/3 of the cost of the Liberty Grove plays the 2/3
2/3.
portion, right?
Correct.
Now, my point is, the village has been very good over the years in setting aside capital improvement funds, CIP funds, to purchase fire trucks, so we had it in reserve when it came time to do it, so we wouldn't have to borrow for it. And this year, as a result of the budgeting effort, we were originally told back in the fall that this truck would not happen until next year. And so we reduced our capital set aside. We still have the money there, and there's still other money in that reserve fund.
There'll be $202,000 left in that reserve fund if we approve this tonight. Yeah.
If we approve this, 200 plus left in that fund. And we were putting, correct me if I'm wrong, Juliana, $50,000 a year, and this year we started saying we were going to do 25,000 into that fund.
Actually, it used to be 100.
Used to be 100, and this year we
Used to be
cut-
100,
cut
then
it.
we reduced it to 50, and
Yeah.
then this year we cut that.
To 25,
To
because we
25.
supposed we weren't
to
going
help.
to do the truck.
And that 25, I think, would help the marina.
Right.
Right, right. So we reallocated how we were
Yeah.
going to do that.
The question I have on the truck is, number one, how many miles we have on the truck it's replacing? And what if, what's the need to suddenly do it now? Number two, and more importantly, don't we have a fire commission board studying, consolidating all the fire departments and all of Northern Door into one? And why are we buying brand-new vehicles when next year they may decide we're going to consolidate all these departments, and now we have duplication with Liberty Grove, or with Ellison Bay, and with Bailey's Harbor, and with Ephraim?
Fire board commission, as far as putting together on a regional basis, is still that, it's an if.
I'll speak to
Go ahead.
number one. Fire trucks, you really do not value in terms of mileage on them, because they get driven so little. And most people don't realize how much of an engineering marvel those things are. Those frames have to be able to flex. They carry such huge loads, and to be able to move at the speeds they do. So essentially, they wear out at different rates than you think of a traditional pickup truck. As I said earlier, this one is going to replace a need for 3 current trucks that they have. So the lifespan also is greatly enhanced when you start looking at a truck of this magnitude.
And I think there was some, in the minutes from the fire board, I know there was some discussion of it, but the fire board has, over the years, put together a pretty good capital plan for replacing their equipment. If you want to, at some time in the future, have somebody from the fire board come and make a presentation or talk to us, we can certainly ask them to do that, ask Chris to come and explain.
I know that he'd be more
Right,
glad to.
he'd be more than happy to do that.
I don't have a problem with them replacing the equipment, that, and I think they do it in a very well thought out and planned method, by putting the money aside beforehand, and so they have it there when they can do the capital improvements. I applaud that. I think that's the right way to do it. I'm just concerned that if we've had the ongoing discussion for a year and a half now about fire boards.
District.
And consolidating all of our departments, and are we spending $300,000 for a truck
No,
that's gonna
let
be
me
consolidated?
Let me answer that, because the fire board, the exploratory district, the way it would be put together, and we would have to approve it, to become part of it, we'd have to approve it. Up to this point in time, we just approved them exploring the idea. As I understand, it's being put together, the cost of everybody, what everybody has as assets is put into it, okay? And the idea behind it is you're not gonna end up spending more
Yeah.
than what you currently now have in place. And in the instance of Sister Bay Liberty Grove, we have a pretty good tight fire department, and we have our stuff up to date, and we have new equipment, and we've been on top of that. So we actually are sitting in a pretty good position as far as a fire district goes. There are some other areas that may have to put additional money in to bring their equipment up to speed, or increase their fire budget.
Or would
in
they
order to meet-
consolidate and use
in
our
order to
equipment?
consolidate and equal the equipment.
We've already spent it.
But then
Correct.
I would think the discussion would lean towards they would end up reimbursing the village for the use of.
I would hope that, but
Yeah.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Again, ultimately, as Dave said, you have control over
Right.
approving it
If
or
it
not.
doesn't make sense for us to do it, why would we
We
do it?
wouldn't do it.
What happens to the old trucks?
We surplus them.
They sell them.
Yeah.
Sell them and
Okay.
Yeah, and look, there are fire departments, I can tell you, that are way worse off than ours, and,
I'm just, as long as we do something.
yeah,
They sell them, or if they get a decent trade-in value for them, they take a trade-in value against the
Yeah.
cost of the new equipment. So they look at what the best
And
situation is.
what happens to that money?
It belongs to the Sister Bay Liberty Grove Fire Department.
yes.
Even though the village is putting the money up for the trucks and stuff like that through their fund,
We
none
have
of
a
that will
joint
come
fire
back.
board that funds our fire department for Sister Bay Liberty Grove.
From a accounting standpoint, it would go back into their CIP,
Correct.
so that would,
It wouldn't go back into the village funding $25,000 a year?
No,
or
it
anything
doesn't
like
come
that.
back out that way. It's
No, but
separated
we-
and kept separate within
yeah,
the
theirs.
fire board.
But we did get money back on the last, it was a bigger truck and a larger amount, but we got money back because prepaying,
Saves.
Save, I know that.
you
yeah.
save, and we received like $25,000 back.
Yeah,
Right.
it seems like on
I
this
see
one-
this has a prepayment,
Yeah.
clause that we could save money, and I'm all for that since
Yeah.
we have the cash.
Yeah,
To take advantage of that and save money, I'm just saying it.
Right, and as I understand, if we get something back in this one for a prepay, it'll be $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
huge, but it's
now
still.
this was postponed because Liberty Grove didn't have the money. So now they've got it. If we push this back a year,
They may not have
they
it.
may not have it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I don't
And
know.
we were prepared for it in this budget, but we were told just prior to approving the budget that it wasn't going to happen.
Correct.
So,
But they may find some other use for their share.
Trees.
Okay. Oh, need a motion.
would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3, discussion on scheduling the board of review dates for 2014.
All right, so this evening we have Mr. Troy Zacharias with us, of Action Appraisers, and he's brought with him his calendar to discuss with you all potential dates for board of review. And Troy, I'll let you take it from here.
What I'm looking for is, I guess, a consensus on a day for a board review. Currently, I'm looking at June 17th, that's a Tuesday. I do tentatively have 5 to 7, but that is completely up to the board what they want to do. We need at least 2 hours of session time to have a legal board review. I mean, if you wanted it at 8 o'clock in the morning, you wanted it at noon, 1, whatever, it is most convenient for the masses. Makes no difference to me. I just found that, people prefer because of work and so forth, that if we have it, around that supper time.
Right, when they can get there.
Most people can get there. But again, now, with the village, I don't know. Again, I think most people are working, especially in June, there's a lot of things going on. I don't know what's the most convenient, because there's a lot of things going on in June.
Early June is better than July, August, or September.
So it's completely, and if the 17th doesn't work, I also have, Monday the 16th, Wednesday the 18th, and then I can go into the next week, the 23rd.
Does anybody have a problem with the 17th?
I don't.
No,
It'll work.
Okay.
It'll work.
Okay,
Okay.
then you just need to say which.
You need a
And what time, what was your preferred
I
time?
have 5 to 7.
5 to 7.
That's fine.
Okay. We'll do a motion on that to approve the dates, publish them.
Yes, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
17th at 5 to 7 p.m.
5 to 7.
Any other discussion?
Just to let you know a couple of things, I did talk with Janelle about open book. Now, that's not something for the board members that have to be there. Again, if you choose, you want to stop, visit, listen to, the few people that came in now last year, I had 5 or 6 or 7 folks come in. You guys are welcome to, it's an open meeting, it's a public meeting. I think talking with Janelle, she's going to kind of give me the smaller room because I never had a lot of people standing there. And I just wanted to make sure I confirmed an area for me to meet with people. So, again, if you guys want to show up, fine, great. I've got that one from like 2 to 4:30, and that's a Thursday, late afternoon.
And what's the date?
What's the date?
That is the May 29th, that's a Thursday. And it'll be public, we'll end up having, it'll be published and so forth, but it's something that way then I can schedule my notices ahead of time. I've also got Bailey's Harbor that later that evening, that way then I can do 2 at once and keep things together and it flows a little better for me. But again, nobody's got to show up unless you just want to listen, talk, or actually ask questions, so I'd be happy with anybody that would want to do that. I do have a couple of things that came on an email, I think it was on Friday. There's some law changes that they're looking at. They were supposed to vote on them, whether the legislature voted on them or not, I'm not sure. They were originally looking at a 60-day mailing for a assessment notice. So what they're looking at is the board review being on the June 17th, I'd have to go back 60 days to mail the notice. We as assessors kind of said, wait a minute, that's way too long. We have a certain time period, we've got to get our work done. And the other thing is most people receive notices. There's a few people that as soon as they get them, they're going to jump on. Whether there's a week, 4 weeks, a year, they're going to jump on. A lot of people look at them, I have time, they set them aside, and 60 days is a long time. I think they'll be forgotten. So what we ended up negotiating with the different beings of who was proposing it, we're looking at a 30-day notice prior to a revaluation and a 15-day before a maintenance. And now maintenance is just your general new construction, demolitions, any market changes and so forth, where revaluation is where all the values would be looked at throughout the whole village. I actually exceed that anyways. I typically try to do 15 days before open book and then have at least 15 days from open book to board review. So I already covered that just because I want people to get it for open book so they can schedule so it's available, and then there's that time frame in between there. If there is some change at open book, then they have the statutory time frames in between. So that part isn't a big thing. I was a little concerned about 60 days because like I said, it's trying to get board reviews in May and June and having to mail 60 days would have been quite a feat for me. One of the other things they proposed is an objection via letter or phone. I struggle with that one because I understand we can use a speakerphone, you can have a phone system. The only thing is when you're face-to-face, and I think a lot of you guys had sat through last year's board review, and with exhibits and so forth, I think there's a lot of things that are lost, is if you're trying to do it over a speakerphone. Because if I don't know what's the person is really objecting to or exactly what they have in mind, I may have more stuff to show than what I would send them if they requested it ahead of time. And I think it would be very cumbersome for the board to make a decision when there's a lot of assumptions, and they can say something, but if they haven't presented it via, visual aids, it may be more difficult. And even a letter would even be worse, because they may just say, my taxes are too high, do something about it. Well, what do you do?
It's easy, lower them.
What's the problem, right?
Well, you can do that, I guess. And I just see some logistics in there that I really struggle with. But we haven't been able to get that changed. That was still in there. There is one other thing that they talked about, is if it was up to the taxpayer, the assessor, or the board, potentially you could skip the board review and just go right to court. And that would be, with the case that we've had on a regular basis, it may just be, that may be beneficial to something like that, where there's potential litigation regardless, then you can just move that way. But it is one of those things that it is up there, so apparently it's been addressed in, and I'm thinking a lot bigger cities that have to deal with it, big box stores and so forth, and that's where the proposal has come from. So those, like I said, it's one of those that when I was reading it, they were looking to vote on it, whether they voted on them or not, I'm not exactly sure. But I will let you know when I do find out.
I've not seen anything from the league.
So I wonder why, because we had a...
And I read the register every time it comes past. I've not seen it.
Yeah, I'll maybe forward the email that I got
Okay.
from you so you can see where it came from. So,
Okay.
those are, and I think there was one other one, but it was fairly insignificant. But, and as far as board review, I know Zika's new, and some of, I think,
I've got a couple new board members.
a couple, I was going to say, when it comes to board review, I know there's training. Some of you guys are certified for that. Zeke had asked, and I'd be happy to do it, if anybody wants to get together, I can go over what the procedures of board review are. If anybody wants a refresher, I'd be happy to come up, sit down with you for half hour, 2 hours, would not be a problem. If anybody has any specific questions, how do I look at this versus this, I'd be more than willing to do that. So,
What are the requirements?
What's that?
What are the requirements? I know when I took it, I thought there was like you
2
had to have it
years.
within 2 years. And
Somebody on the board
it's been
has to
4
have
years.
it.
Is it just somebody, or?
Yeah, has to have a updated license.
Does that mean that mine was 4 years ago, so I couldn't sit on a board of review?
You
or
could sit if somebody
Somebody
here.
else here.
As long as
has
somebody
it.
else had it, all right. that's-
You need one certified person sitting on the board.
Yeah.
And it's an every 2-year thing. So
Right.
you can, I think there's a WIS line you can do it on. You can also do it at the League of
Will
Municipalities.
you copy me on that
Yeah,
information?
get that link.
Yeah. And I'll get that pinged out.
Because
It wouldn't
who
hurt.
here currently has it?
I do. I did last.
You did it last.
Did you
Okay.
do it last year, too?
Yeah, so we have 2 that are.
Got you covered, John.
Pardon?
All
Got
right.
you covered.
Good. I'm glad, because it was boring, and I don't want to sit through it again.
Yeah, you listen to it online and
I'm
walk
curious,
around, so
since we're on the topic of training, if I could ask a question. How many of you all have done your NIMS 700 and 800 series?
Is that the one you emailed? Is
That was the one I emailed.
Saying 3 hours each? I've got it saved.
Well, John, that's right
It's,
next to
that's the
certified, right?
introduction.
Yeah.
It's not, that's not the one that said we're trying to get a grant for the one that's actually required of you. Because, yeah,
for
that
the
one
grant?
has to be taught in person. But the 700, 800 will give you pretty much everything. Anyway,
So,
okay.
yeah, if anybody wants me to come up, everybody, 1 or 2, I'd be happy, just let Zeke know, and he can let me know, and we can figure out
Schedule.
a time or that would work out for everybody. The training, yeah, it is very boring, monotonous. It's not one thing that you...
Oh, it's kind of cute, though, those little scenarios that come up, you know. There you go.
I haven't seen them in a while. I did see a videotape about 12, 15 years ago, and it was like,
Probably the same one I saw.
well, it came on a VCR, if that tells you anything.
No, this was online.
So maybe they've updated them since, but yeah, like I said, if anybody, I'd be happy to, go over questions and so forth.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time and, it's going to be the first day of spring. It's going to be actually 20-ish maybe.
Thanks,
Double
Troy.
digits with a plus sign.
Thursday in spring?
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Keeping on sweatshirts.
Item number 4, review of monthly financial statements and consideration of a motion to approve the monthly bills. I thought we did. Did we?
What's that?
Approve the date for the 17th?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You motioned and second. I don't think
Yeah.
it was-
You made the
wasn't voted.
motion,
I don't
you
think we
haven't taken a
voted.
vote yet.
Okay, so any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you. Moving right along to item number 4. Review of the monthly financial statements, consideration of a motion to approve the monthly bills.
You can go get warm faster if you do it quicker.
I'll make that motion.
In what amount, please?
Oh,
The amount.
I have it. Oh, I'm sorry, I just went off the page.
I just want you to know it's your finance chairman that's going to make this motion to spend all this money.
Without question.
Okay, I should probably help you out here.
Yeah, yeah.
This large sum is because,
Wait.
We have
you're
to,
not ready?
No, gotta
we
make
have
the
to
motion.
wait.
I thought he
I will
did.
make the motion to approve paying the bills for $1,109,425.91.
How about if you amend that to say $1,396,159.91?
Taxes went up already.
All right, I got it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Julie.
Okay.
We receive during December and January all of the tax money, and then we have to pay it back out to the county and the schools. So a large part of this huge sum is those payments of back to the county and the schools of money that never belonged to us in the first place.
So he gets to spend all this money that we don't have anyway.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Well, let's
Doesn't that feel
withhold it.
good?
Let's just hold it for a while.
Way to
I
go,
always wanted to
Shane.
write a check that day.
Any questions on anything that was submitted?
Yes.
John?
Several questions. Propane, everybody's
Wait.
favorite.
Are we in
Please
the
start
village
with-
or the
where are you at?
municipality?
Well, the village first.
Okay.
Okay?
Propane for
What page?
the fire station on page 3, 14,223. And I see in the library on page 3
Yep.
for 4,500.
Yep.
I see the month before we had Milton Propane. So I guess my question is it because we had Milton Propane under contract and
Yes.
they reneged on their contract that we were stuck at paying at market rate?
That's correct.
That is
All
correct.
right, so that explains.
Would you please define renege on contract?
They
Because I don't
invoke-
believe that's exactly the case.
Okay, they
careful what we're
invoked
saying.
Section 5 of the contract, which gave them, I'm going to use the term force majeure, or the ability to declare force majeure, which are market measures beyond their control, and thusly moved it to a market-based pricing so that they could obtain a steady supply.
That was because we did not have a prepaid contract.
No.
We had a contract. You can contract with them
Yeah.
for certain gallons, but if you didn't prepay,
Yeah.
you got the letter.
But it was because we had Milton.
Yeah.
Because Feral Gas and Lakes and the other ones are honoring their contract. For instance, I didn't prepay my contract, but I have a contract with Feral, and I'm at, my contracted price. My question is, at $14,000, that has to be a lot of propane, even at $7
I'll tell you what, and this was a judgment call that I made, given how cold things were and given the shortage and given not knowing, given that I'm in an emergency management graduate course right now, to have it and not need it is a whole lot better than to need it and not have it. And so I felt like, given that I'm hearing stories of people who are down to 5% on their tanks, I thought there was a real possibility that we may have some folks who are elderly who may end up with no propane and need to go somewhere. And our warming stations would be the library and the fire station.
Yeah.
So I told them, and Janelle worked on this diligently to get it done, fill those tanks up. these are our emergency stations, we need to have them, fill them up. And that's why you're looking at such a big expenditure.
Well,
And
my next question is, could we have got 200 gallons or something like that?
we
to
could
get us
have,
through
but
the
what happens when we can't get the next fill up?
thing? So,
Again, that's emergency
At
management.
at that
It's
point in time,
Uh-huh.
it looked very iffy as to getting deliveries at all.
Period.
So,
I had to really, really whine to get him to come.
We had to explain to them that these were
I'm a
public
very good
facilities that
whiner.
would be used as emergency warming stations. That's the only way they do it. And they really gave us a tough time about that.
all right, then and this is Milton that filled them up, or did you have somebody else
No.
fill them up?
We had, Farrell Gas did one of them, right?
Yeah.
and the
Farrell
co-op
Gas
and
Center.
the library.
And the big one, the 14,000 was the Farrell Gas. And Milton wouldn't even come out and do, we got the co-op to come out and do the library.
Milton wasn't even answering their phones.
No.
You couldn't get
Couldn't get 'em.
whether you were prepaid or not, you could not get anything out of them.
Well, and the library at one point was down to 5%.
Yes. That will, it's ultimately up to your finance committee.
Are we
I
on,
wouldn't suggest
going
that
forward,
is.
like next year, when we are doing it,
Let me,
it would make sense to have a contract with somebody that's,
some of these other things are,
No, it's not on the agenda.
yeah. We're rethinking it. I'll get into the how later.
okay? And then the question on page 1 is Blue Tarp Financial strobe light for Bruce. What's a strobe light for Bruce?
You have to have a safety flashing light to
You didn't come
drive
with
on
it?
the road. No, they're not standard.
So,
What does, under...
We didn't know they were gonna be driving on the road, John.
Just a clarification on page 2, under Donahue Services, what is additional services? They're billed 3 times as just additional services. I'm curious what that is.
The reason it repeats 3 times is that those are being charged to different accounts. We have the stormwater portion of the project, we have sewer, and we have water. So they're being charged
Split out.
3 different places. Additional services are additions that were made to the contract after it was first initiated, and so that's how they describe those.
Any other questions on the village? Any questions on utility?
I'm good.
question on utilities, page 1 for Dorner, 204,000. What portion of this contract is that for? Is that all of it, or is that?
No, that's the second, and that's December's payment,
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
one that you approved at your
at
last
the last
meeting.
board meeting.
We approved that, yeah.
And this is the actual construction guy, this isn't the
Right.
consultant? Okay.
No.
Right.
All
The
right.
construction, the consultant, the engineers are Donahue and Associates.
Okay.
Somewhere in here, I don't know if it was the village, probably the village, I also noticed that we made the payment to, is it Country House Resort?
Yes.
Zog?
Yes.
You did.
Yes, and we'll need to get reimbursement from the other taxing entities for those portions of it.
Do you know what the process is to do that?
We notify them, and we've been working with Randy Nesbitt to complete it.
Yeah, Christie has that paperwork. There's some kind of chargeback that you have to do.
Do you have any idea what amount we're expecting to receive back once it's all done?
It seems like we
So
were in for $4,000.
It was 18,000
Yeah.
total. Any idea what we're getting back?
Yeah,
Off the top of my head, it was about $4,000 that we were in for, and the rest of it was the county and
that'd be a good guess.
the other stuff. This is in that
So
ballpark.
Somewhere
13 or
12 or
$14,000.
13, 14, okay.
Any other questions on?
The only other question I have is on the propane, going back to that.
Yep.
Is there any relief from the state on that?
To us at this time, none that I've been made aware of. Governor Walker has made some state of emergency relief funds available.
There was 2 types. One was for additional community programs to allow people who couldn't pay for the heating because of the increased cost, but also it was loans to
Loans to the
suppliers, so
propane
suppliers
companies,
could
yeah.
get the propane. because of the cost, so much.
There's not been a federal state of emergency declared over this, and so FEMA is not stepping in with any aid to communities.
Anything else?
I have a question on Village page 3, plow truck, 03 Chevy plow motor is charged twice there.
Let's see what we're on.
I couldn't hear you, Jane.
Page 3,
Of the village?
Page 3 of the Village, the 03 Chevy plow motor was replaced twice
What's the vendor?
No, it.
under
it-
Sister Bay Auto.
Again, these things get split between accounts. So utilities has 3 departments. So that plow motor was split among the departments where it is used. And unfortunately, these reports just keep repeating. They don't,
Give you the
it's not the
justification.
best format, but that's what we get.
Okay.
I have a question on village. John will love this one. Page 2, under Donahue and Associates.
okay?
Took the words right out of his mouth.
3 times within their billing, they show public outreach. Is that their meetings up here? or is that
That's their
something
meetings
else?
up
Is that
here.
Yeah.
When
Again,
they're coming up here.
that's being split
Between different?
between the different portions
Accounts.
of the project.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anybody else? There was a motion by our finance chair. There was a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Report on county activities from County Supervisor Dave Lino. Our meeting, the last time I made a report, I was one behind on meetings. So we won't have, the meeting to report on will be on the 25th of this month. So next month I'll have a report, and we'll have caught up with our county supervisor reports.
So the county board isn't meeting till the 25th?
Correct.
Okay.
We had a couple special meetings in there, and that kind
Okay.
of messed up the routine. Item number 6, discussion regarding matters to be placed on a future agenda referred to a committee, official, or employee.
We'll do appointments.
Yeah, we'll do appointments next month.
Okay.
Anybody else?
We need to schedule meetings for everything I do need to have on economic development, but we can do that and send out an email.
Okay.
Okay.
Committee reports. Administrative has not met. Bay Shore Oversight.
Has one,
Coastal Byways.
Scott?
In your packet, you have the January 23rd meeting. Basically, we just proofed that interpretive plan draft that I passed around last meeting, and we discussed the 2014 brochure. That is it.
ECD.
The packet that you have in there was covered last month. Again, LaSalle was there, sent out some support letters, reviewed our strategic work plan for 2014, talked about the 25th anniversary, trying to get Walker in for speaker. We met. Also in your packet is a letter that the EDC sent out to the Coast Guard, actually, letter of support for a partial waiver of Bay shipbuilding. Sturgeon Bay is not considered a secure port. And I should say secured port for foreign flagged vessels. So last year, we had 2 hulls come in, one from Norway that went through the Seaway, all through the Great Lakes, didn't stop anywhere, showed up here, and we unloaded it in Sturgeon. The second one, which was a carbon fiber hull, made a stop at Buffalo, and the Coast Guard noticed that, and they stopped them coming into the bay of Green Bay. Said we couldn't land here. They couldn't bring it in. So we ended up sending it over to Marinette, which is a secure port, and then Bay Ship had to pay somewhere in the ballpark of $70,000 to get that hull over here, either on a barge or trucked around or something. Anyway, so this letter is to ask for a partial waiver, and that was approved last month.
Can I make a general comment to the DC
Yes.
or whatever? Do they choose that stationery by design?
They do. It just
Yeah.
copies really bad.
That is very difficult to read. They had to change the
Yeah,
stationery.
it looks good when you see the original print,
Yeah.
but when you
It's
run it through the copy
terrible. It
machine,
doesn't copy
Every
well.
time I read one, it's kind of like,
yeah, it looks like static on TV.
yeah, very difficult to read.
Yesterday's meeting at DCEDC, we had a HATCO. We were given an overview by the plant manager. Presentation by a Jeff Sachi, who was with Workforce Development. I'm going to pass around a little handout that he gave, a lot of statistics and things, but the first 2 pages are pretty grim as far as employment and the economy here that they're predicting. Looks grim until about the fourth quarter of 2015. A couple of things that stood out. Door County 10-year growth, they anticipate a 0.04% growth. Also, by the year 2040, our over 65 population will be 38.4% of the county.
Sister Jay's already.
I'm going to pass this around if anybody wants to take a quick glance. First few pages are kind of scary. So we approved the Bay Shipbuilding letter, and that's about it.
Economic development.
Economic Development met, adopted the redevelopment plan downtown, established a project management team or strategic management committee to move the project forward, and we'll be meeting again this next month to consider a proposal to investigate what it would take to get Vanderwall and Associates to come in and do the next round of recruitment.
You say Vanderwall Associates to do the next round of recruitment. What do you mean by that?
Well, to Vanderwall Associates developed the original plan.
Right.
And that is a marketing piece in and of itself. After having conversations with Bill Shudwar and Steve McNeil down in Sturgeon Bay about Sturgeon Bay's progress forward on their economic development end, they work actively with Vanderwall and Associates to go out and recruit developers in for these larger sites. That's what the Economic Development Committee will be tasked with at the next meeting. That's what we discussed at the previous meeting.
Because the original contract with Vanderwall was for them to have 20 sets of that plan.
Yes.
And to help us do marketing with developers and go through.
I went through their contract, and I know that was,
That's what we all thought.
yeah,
It was discussed that way at the meeting.
it was discussed that way, that those were services they could offer, and
But it
I
wasn't
now,
discussed by them as those were services that were included.
in the contract. And I now go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. So they sent me an initial proposal. I kicked it back and said, no, we're not interested in these things. They've now sent me a copy. I've got to kick it back to her one more time and say, no, I needed to say this. And that's okay, because they're thorough at what they do, but they offer a wide range of services. And if we had a unlimited amount of money, I would want to engage in all of those services. But we have a finite amount of money and have to be responsible to the taxpayers. In conjunction with this, we'll have some conversation with the private landowners And I'm also writing a Tier 3 grant to WEDC to finance this. So I've had a conversation with the leader borough about it as well.
You know, the other consideration there is they're a year late with developing this plan.
Why do you think they're a year late?
I don't know how much is on theirs or how much is on the additional thing, but that was originally supposed to be in July of last year. Was that plan was going to be ready for market with the 20 copies and stuff like that that was going to be available for us to take to developers, and they were going to help us and give us a list of developers as we understood it.
It was completed at the last Economic Development Committee meeting. It was just never adopted, meaning you all sent the revisions back to them. And then in the transition time between Bob and I, Economic Development never met. And so they never brought it back up. I was the one that instructed them to go ahead and go to print, having read the minutes, that you all had adopted it with those revisions, or had sent those
I
revisions.
think what
with
happened was
final
the Plan
copy.
Commission and the board got ahead of economic development. So we approved it at the board level, and we approved it at the Plan Commission level.
Economic Development.
And we're
never.
assuming it's done. Well, Econ never approved it, and Econ never accepted the final pages that it just got done.
And they've now delivered the 20 copies. I've made them available to Greg Casperson. He's come by and picked up a few. We've had some meetings, talked to Bill Becker, who's representing Casperson's property and marketing it. I've had a conversation now with the Bronze, and all of us will be meeting in March when the Bronze head up here for their travel season to try to coordinate this marketing effort.
Anything else on the agenda? Fire board,
Finance.
minutes are in your
You
packet.
don't have any,
Both of them.
okay.
Fire district exploratory, ongoing. Historical Society,
There's no minutes, I don't know why they didn't make it in, maybe because, oh, this is from December. We did not have a meeting in January. And the one last week, I had a personal event occur right at the end, so I wasn't there. But just to catch you up briefly, in December, from what I read over on the agenda for February, it's the same, where they're reviewing adding a director, perhaps creating a paid position for a coordinator for the docents, and they're going through job descriptions and also descriptions they're revisiting the president and vice president and things of the Historical Society Committee, so. A little bit of reorganization going on right now.
So they'll be meeting in February, or in March?
In March, I believe so. I haven't received
Okay.
minutes yet from that.
library.
We met January 21st. We approved buying some benches and tables for the outdoor project that's wrapping up. I brought up about meeting not so often, and they thought that was a good idea, so we're meeting like every 6 to 7 weeks now. So our next meeting is next week, and that's about it. I'm also going to bring up at the meeting too, which Zeke had pointed out to me about having the library open and programmable thermostat and all that stuff. So I want to see what they have in place for that.
Okay, good. Any questions? Marina Fest.
Marina Fest hasn't met. Marina met this last week. And the main thing is discussed a mission statement to go forward. Preliminary on that is to become the destination marina in Northern Door County. The other thing is we started talking about long-range plans and some of the 5-year plan and some of the things that we need to be done. And some of the immediate needs that we were talking about was restrooms at the marina, and both public and the marina. A couple things that came through there from suggestions that we think we're probably going to pursue is first of all, is air conditioning in the bathrooms at the marina office. I mean, it's 95 degrees outside and 90 degrees in humidity inside. It's almost impossible. we're talking about painting the building and maybe doing some, low-cost maintenance, dressing it up, maybe getting some furniture inside. The other thing we discussed was Donna, or not Donna, no, not Donna, Connie Carlson had resigned her position at the marina because she's now general manager at Cal Marine. And so we had the discussion of whether or not that seat should be filled as a seventh person for an alternate. And it was a consensus of the committee that they need that seventh person. As it was this time, Jeff Flagel had driven up from Racine for the day to be at the meeting, and we needed him to be for majority. So we are going to recommend to the village president that we keep that seventh person on there. And a name that was put forward was Dan Youngworth as one of the preliminary people for that seventh person.
So this will all come via minutes?
Yeah, yes, it will, but there's no minutes right now.
No. Any questions? No. Parks, minutes are in your package. I guess the only comment I want to make is TKH is having a bang-up year. Of course, that's due to weather, as we all know. This morning I saw something on the weather, local weather, statistically, because last year, if you recall, TKH didn't do very well. This year so far, since December 1st, we've had one day above freezing. Last year, up till this date, we had 49 days above freezing. 8 of those days were above 50, and 3 of those days were above 60. As of this morning.
So we approached 50 below.
I didn't say above or below.
And we've hit 40-some days where the temperature has been below zero.
We'll tell you that for the first time, well, let me not say it like that, but TKH is running in the positive. We've not made our $5,000 allocation to them so far, and they're $1,250, some 50 some odd dollars in the green or black for the year, which I think is fantastic.
And, Joe's doing a great job out there. Personnel has not met. Plan, there was 2 set of minutes, a regular and a special. Any questions?
Tonight?
Still at that meeting.
Communications and technology has not met recently, but we will be in the future. SBAA, minutes are in the packet.
Those should be the minutes from last, no, those are,
January 9th.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are just passed. I guess there's not hugely noteworthy
I got one.
things that went on.
Yeah, we discussed a couple of things at SBA, one of them being SBAA beginning to charge for wristbanding at Fall Fest and potentially other events where alcohol is served, and we have a large security bill to meet at SBAA, and that's of course up to them, they're a separate organization. The other one was, we just had a follow-up, I'll let Janelle speak a little bit on this. We discussed the possibility of having an event in Uptown. Started to kick that idea around at the SBAA meeting. As a follow-up to that, Paige, Janelle, Steve Mann, myself, and Steve Daubman met this morning on the potential of a Uptown event, and have begun the ball rolling on that for a Labor Day weekend event.
Memorial Day, the Sunday of Memorial.
I'm sorry, Memorial Day. Labor Day.
Labor Day's taken.
I get them backwards.
I have a question going back to the comments in here about going to private security, not using as many sheriff's people.
Yes, sir.
The sheriffs also noted it may be possible to eliminate or at least reduce some of the law enforcement services which are provided at Fall Fest. Is that as a result of doing private security? Or is he saying he doesn't think we need as much as we currently have?
He said some of the stuff that was done may not be necessary, like where the officers, I ID'd somebody who obviously was 50 or 60, you know, and just doing it for certain people that look young, stuff like that.
I mean, I was helping out at those booths, and there were 2 or 3 security people standing there together, and there was a
Right.
big, it just didn't flow.
Like we had a
There was
guild.
a lot of redundancy in
And it just,
security people, I
as a,
thought.
Okay. All right, I'm just curious. Teen Center,
You have a minute.
tourism zone.
tourism zones, this meeting is before that meeting, so I'll get you all that.
You'll get caught up.
Yep.
Utility,
Pat is absent.
Yeah,
And they're on their quarterly
Yeah,
meeting
we didn't
schedule, so
meet
there
this-
was no
we didn't
meeting.
meet
Their
this
next
month.
meeting will be in April.
yep.
that's what I like to hear. Administrative and compensation has not met.
And it is coming up.
Coming up. Waterfront oversight just met tonight for the first time. No minutes are currently available, but they will be in the future. Right?
That's right. Got all the problems solved.
We still have water out there.
A motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'd like to make the motion to adjourn this meeting tonight.
Is there a second?
Guys, that was an hour and 5
All in
minutes.
favor? Aye.
That's why you kept the temperature.